He made one of the most mysterious drawings in the world. He drew a map. World map. The mysterious part was that he drew areas on the map that no one had discovered yet. Some interesting and even frightening creatures. Land masses that normally don't exist, and an entirely red island. According to some, it was meant to show that the Antichrist was on this island. Normally, Antarctica is at the bottom of the world map. If you look at Piri Reis's map, you can see that the bottom part is filled in the same way. Maybe Piri Reis showed the continent of Antarctica, and that was 3 centuries before its discovery. Could this be possible? How was it possible that Piri Reis 500 years ago could show places he had never been to on the map he drew himself? What was written in the 29 notes in Ottoman Turkish and 1 in Arabic on the map? Here is Piri Reis's world map with all its mysteries. Mysterious. The year 1465. Only 12 years after the conquest of Istanbul, Karaman Haji Mehmet and his wife were unaware that on that day they had one of the world's most talented and intelligent sailors, Ahmet Muhyiddin Piri. From a young age, Ahmet Muhyiddin was fascinated by the great majesty of the seas. Over time, he observed the journeys and expeditions he made at sea. He took notes about them. At the age of 29, he officially began serving in the Ottoman Navy together with his uncle. He became interested in geography and focused on cartography. During his voyages, he recorded the places he saw and the events he experienced. He described them in his book called Kitab-ı Bahriye. After some time, his beloved uncle, with whom he went on many expeditions, passed away. And Muhyiddin Piri, at the age of 46, took a break from seafaring and settled in Gallipoli. A while after his uncle's death, he would now be given the title Reis, which means captain. Now he was Piri Reis. In 1511, after many expeditions in the Mediterranean, Piri Reis wanted to contribute more to the Ottoman Navy in the field of navigation. For this, he worked day and night. About 2 years later, in 1513, he drew that magnificent, comprehensive, and detailed First World Map. Actually, the first world map in history was drawn in a very simple form by the Babylonians on a stone tablet. Afterwards, with the discoveries made and the developing technology, more detailed drawings began to be made. But none of them were able to fully draw a world map that included the American continent. They couldn't even come close, that is, until Piri Reis's map. The map was drawn on gazelle skin, measuring 65 by 2 feet 11 inches using 9 different colors. It shows the western coasts of Europe and Africa, a small part of North America, and a large part of South America, specifically their eastern shores. As can be seen from the right side, the map is divided along a straight line. Some say the map consists of 2 pieces in total, while others claim it has 16 pieces. Say, the map. There are 30 different notes of various sizes on it. Apart from this, there are 9 ships, including a boat, and nearly 20 animals depicted. Some of the animal drawings have become deformed or faded. After the map was drawn, it mysteriously disappeared. In the 1900s, that is, until it reappeared 4 centuries later. What makes the map mysterious is the presence of undiscovered lands, strange creatures, and symbols. Moreover, the map was drawn with a unique perspective. Piri Reis's world map was created at a time when longitude could not be calculated precisely. At that time, maps were usually decorated with symbolic illustrations. Coasts, islands, ports, and the distances between them were shown roughly, and ships traveling at sea would determine their direction according to these points. This is called the Portolan technique. Its Turkish name is related to the word port, so by looking at these maps, you could easily see the indentations and protrusions, rocky and shallow areas along your route, and determine your direction accordingly. As for these complex lines drawn on the map, these lines are the extensions of the compasses on the map. So these are lines that determine direction. It's actually a maritime language that shows how far each point extends. By showing these points on his map, Piri Reis provided great assistance to the Ottoman Navy. First of all, the reason I explained the historical and geographical aspects was important so that you can better understand the following parts, the mysterious parts. When you look at the map, we see the African continent and a part of the South American and North American continents. But today, when we compare it with modern maps, we can say that the South American continent is completely inconsistent with Piri Reis's drawing, because the southern part of the continent is positioned in an extended way toward the east. According to some, Piri Reis may have actually shown the continent of Antarctica on his map. Could he have discovered this continent 3 centuries before the discovery of Antarctica? If this is true, why did Piri Reis draw South America connected to Antarctica? Professor Charles Hapgood said that the Piri Reis map reflects Antarctica as it was tens of thousands of years ago. According to Charles, Piri Reis depicted Antarctica on the map as it was before it was covered with glaciers. In fact, it was impossible to discover the continent of Antarctica at that time, because the farthest known place was the southern part of Africa. So Piri Reis could not have drawn the continent of Antarctica, because there's a detail on the map that could invalidate this. If you look carefully, the first visible tip of the map is actually exactly the same as the tip of South America. So much so that the Malvinas Islands, which still exist today, are drawn on the map in exactly the same place. So this part doesn't look like Antarctica, it just looks like the remaining part of South America. So then, did Piri Reis draw the South American continent incorrectly? Why was the lower part of the continent positioned facing east? According to legend, Pope Alexander VI was going to make a division between Portugal and Spain, the division of the lands colonized by them. On June 7, 1494, the Treaty of Tordesillas was signed and a border was drawn from north to south. This was called the line of demarcation. The east of this line was given to Portugal and the west to Spain. However, the Portuguese moved the border further east to include today's Argentine coast in order to gain more land. So, according to legend, Piri Reis drew the Argentine coast extending eastward because of this agreement. In fact, Piri even wrote the following in a note on his map. The Portuguese cannot pass from here to the west. That side belongs to Spain. But when you look at it, this claim isn't very realistic. Because if you look at the map in the agreement, the borderline doesn't just cover the edges, it includes more than half of South America. Moreover, the drawn map has nothing to do with the appearance of South America. It looks as if it was drawn by guesswork, because the borders of the American continents in the west were not fully known and could not be mapped. But in Piri Reis's map, South America looks incredibly similar to how it is today. So in this note, just as Piri Reis described other important events, he is only talking about the agreement made by Portugal and Spain. When it comes to the drawing of South America, either Piri Reis drew this part incorrectly, or there must be another explanation for it. Maybe there could have been some information explaining this good part of the map. Normally, maps are 3-dimensional and sloped. When we transfer this to a 2-dimensional plane, we see that the lower part of the continent shifts to the east. This is an azimuthal projection, which means a map transferred onto a plane. An azimuthal projection is the bird's eye view of the world from a certain point after rising above the earth. The heart of the world, its central point, is known as Cairo, Egypt. So an azimuthal map centered on Cairo actually explains everything. In this form, the map closely resembles the map of Piri Reis, and the northern part of the continent, which normally appears more slanted, is flatter on the azimuthal map. Again, just like in Piri Reis's map. Now this is quite interesting. The Swiss author Erich von Däniken mentions Piri Reis in his book Chariots of the Gods, and puts forward the extraordinary claim that he could have made this map only with the help of aliens. Indeed, even today, how the map was drawn under the conditions of that time is still a matter of debate. Actually, there is information about its drawing in the lower left part of the map. It is written in Turkish as follows, and I have copied from the great Columbus. Who has drawn these coasts and islands on the mentioned map. It is written on Colombo's map. So Piri Reis mentioned Colombo as a source of information in the last section and said that the areas and coasts of the American continent were drawn by looking at Colombo's map. So did Piri Reis draw the American continent just by looking at another map without all these mysteries? At this point, during my research, I came across a section from Piri Reis's book called Bahriye. It's an interesting section because it gives another piece of information about the drawing of the map. Listen to this part carefully. Now know that map making is the work of the wise. This is not the work of an ordinary person, because what is shown on the map is real. Know that they do not differ even by a hair's breadth. Here, I have explained to you how the map was made. Things are getting more and more complicated. In the note here, Piri Reis states that he did not make the map himself, but that wise, enlightened people had it made for him. But in the note on the map, it said that he benefited from the column. So which one was true? What was Piri Reis trying to convey with the strange symbols and creatures on his map? What was this red island standing in the middle, and the strange creature right below it? When the notes on the map were examined, some oddities were found and a serious claim was made. In the second and final episode, we will answer all these questions. I kindly ask you especially not to forget to like the video and leave a comment. The second episode really seems like it's going to be quite strange.